guys? Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into today's video, let me just briefly advertise what I have going on my Metafy recently. So first of all, Legacy is revolving a lot around the Reanimator right now, so that's what I want to do with my content as well. So this is why I recently updated my 75, my plans versus the field, all my tips and tricks in this Legacy guide. But I also made this article. We have a mole insider's blueprint to beating the Reanimator with a ton of deck building tips, angles you can take advantage of, pain and pressure points in the Reanimator deck, where it's more fragile than I currently think people are pressuring the deck, and basically just trying to use my expertise as someone who has had dozens of top 8 finishes with the deck during the last, year and a half or whatever. I thought I would put that to good use, so you kind of have, if you want to specialize, playing Reanimator, being more resilient, being aware of stuff ahead of schedule, or you can kind of get a lot of tips on how to win more games against the deck. I thought that was a pretty cool duality to have. In the pipeline, I have these two articles, which are going to be deck list dumps of 5 times 75s, which I worked a lot on, tweaked a lot of numbers, made a responsible sideboard plan, and made a configuration against Reanimator. And these will basically be just, some cards representing the strategies. Obviously, you'll have to read the article to get into the actual 75s and read about the plans and my tweaks and my thoughts. And this is what I have in the pipeline. So tons of stuff ramping up until Eternal Weekend, and I hope you're here for it because I'm only going to keep adding more value to that membership. With all of that said, thanks so much for watching so far. Let's get into the video. All right, guys. I'm running a bit of a tight schedule today, but of course I have to put out Metagame Monday. Let's have a look at the 40 decks that ended up doing well this past week in Legacy over the 5 challenges. Let's see, how many Reanimator decks we working with here? 14 out of the 40, which is obviously a huge number. One of them managed to take it down. Dimir Tempo deck took it down. Jeskai deck took it down. Eldrazi Aggro took it down, and Lance took it down. So love to see the winning decks over these. Lots of deck represented. So lots of Reanimator still. So it's just a huge focus of mine here to basically emphasize that this deck is very, very strong. This means we cannot sleep at the wheel when we're trying to beat it. We really have to do our absolute best, possibly even go overboard to beat this deck. So that's going to be my mission in the months to come. A few Oops All Spells decks snuck in there. That's very cool to see because this deck has been on a huge downtrend. I think especially once people realized that data-wise, it was just simply a bad choice if you were trying to win your next tournament. That can kind of get people to both not play the deck, then when people don't play the deck, people respect the deck less. So I would guess these two players had a big success rate simply just killing their opponent on turn 1 a lot of the time and then squeezing one sideboarded game out. But of course, I have no way to know that. I didn't contact them. Next up here, we have the Temple pile, which this week has 0 Izzet Cutter decks, 0 Delver decks. This is interesting because there was a narrative floating around that this Dimir Tempo deck is simply just a bad version of the Reanimator deck. So, first of all, I disagree with that. I think it's a lot to do with, these decks share some cards. They have the same, Underground Sea in it. So why not add the Reanimator package? And then subsequently, people would be signing up with, Izzet decks and Izzet Cutter decks. It's just, there's just a lot of perception going on in Magic in general. It's the same when a card gets restricted and vintaged, and all of a sudden people start playing 1 copy. But when it was unrestricted, people play 0 copies. Like, there's multiple examples of this throughout history, which is kind of funny. I really love the Dimir deck here. You can main deck Spell Bomb, so you can play a solid game against the whole field. But my absolute favorite thing about the Dimir deck is that a bunch of members, maybe even all 4 of these, are members over on my Metafy, and did super well. I was lucky to spectate some high-level Magic yesterday after finishing some work, and watching these guys go to work in the top 8. That was a big pleasure to see, and obviously hard work pays off, so Great job, guys. You know who you are. Next column here is the combo column. Mystic Force continues to be the, I guess, the most successful combo deck in Legacy. Sneak and Show and Doomsday are always lurking in the bushes in the hands of experts, but I actually think Mystic Force is just a strong deck, period. The combination of being explosive, being able to back-to-back Haymaker through the normal defense, which is typically going to be Force of Will, Force of Negation. Then, of course, you can get crippled by stuff like Wasteland. God forbid people are running Null Rods. If Green Sun Zenith decks are popular, that means you're going to see more Collector Oofs. So that's the stuff you need to worry about here. Also, the count of Consign in people's sideboard. Let's say people have to decide between, I don't know, Hydroblast and Consign. They end up choosing Hydroblast. Awesome news for the Mystic Forge deck. They end up choosing Consign. Less awesome news for the Mystic Forge deck. So this deck needs metagame stuff to go their way in order to be a tournament-winning deck. Next up, we have the control pile, and this is a wild one. So there was this really cool Bant Endurance Uro Tameo One Ring Back to Basics Carpet of Flowers in the main deck, control deck that did well. Really put up a strong finish here, and I think one of the Barons were able to stop it. That was just super cool to see a different take on control. Very basic land heavy. That means you're preparing for recurring wastelands out of lands. That means you're preparing for Blood Moon out of mono red. And you're looking to shut people down to the back to basics. So awesome to see. I will say with the trending of Linked Dust in some of these Reanimator decks, including my own, I'm not too big on Uro being my premier win condition, but, you know, can't have it all. Jeskai Wizards looked super impressive winning the challenge on Saturday, where I spectated my good friend Pivo. He made it all the way to the finals, and this Jeskai deck ran laps around him, took down the tournament. It was very cool to see. This deck is very high on my radar these days. I think that engine is good, and if you build your flex slots responsibly, I really like how that deck is looking into the field. Then we have this sweet one. Basically another Bant deck, Natural Order, Atraxa value deck, with this card in it that Strifo popularized by top-8ing with it in the showcase. So you basically get a little bit of built-in engine here, alongside, I believe, the 1-drop and this one. The 1-drop is kind of like Poor Man's Deathrite Shaman, and you can start drawing cards here. Not sure if this deck has any legs moving forward, but it's the style of Magic that people like to play. So yeah, this guy certainly made it count and top-8'd a challenge. So congrats. I'm always big on highlighting these, let's call it underdog stories, without hurting anybody's feelings. So next up here we have Mono Red Prison back on a surge here. I believe last week it had 0 copies, or I might be confusing these. But anyway, Mono Red Prison has been having kind of a rough time, but with the Saga buff, I feel like we're back at this. We can't really rule this deck out. And that's where Mono Red Prison is the most dangerous, right? Because you're like, should I play the second Hydroblast, or should I use it on something else? And then when you don't respect it, you will get Blood Moon more often. You will die to their aggressive curve with, you know, Bombardier, Pyrogoyf, that kind of jazz more often. Now they even have built-in resiliency, or let's just call it added durability in their mana base, thanks to Ursa Saga. A little bit of a trinket package to handle the graveyard. Maybe a Shadow Spear. Yeah, just a super solid deck. Couple of lands decks here. Lands is, I've said this multiple times before, I think that deck is insane, but it's only a few people who can play it. So your job is to either learn playing lands, or at least learn about how lands operate so that you can beat it. Because if you sleep at the wheel, forget about a crop target or some, you know, Thespian stage targeting a forest, fizzling a wasteland, then you're in trouble. So you need to know the details about lands. I always encourage players to be more well-rounded when it comes to their knowledge, because sure, maybe they are, what do I know, sneak and show players, but then you need to study the whole field and kind of look for all the counterplays through that lens. That's always what I encourage people to do. It's a great way to understand the other decks, which then subsequently lets you maneuver against those decks. Last column is the creature column. So we do have some stompy decks here first. Couple of Eldrazi aggro, which is awesome to see. I'm always sad when a whole archetype gets, obsoleted by a single ban. So thinking about the Muxus ban, I'm thinking about the Mycospawn ban. So seeing this deck back to even winning tournaments, I think this is the second time, is awesome to see. It's a pretty simple aggro deck, relying on the strength of mainly Chalice of the Void. Then we have some solid stuff up the curve and try and use that explosive mana advantage to close out the game with aggressive creatures with annoying abilities tacked on to them. So lovely to see the Eldrazi deck putting up numbers. Then we have the Naya Initiative deck, which I think this deck is too inconsistent to expect this to be here every week. But this is just, if you run Hut, this is a very, very powerful deck. The Cavern plus Initiative creatures with the Magus of the Moons, ton of free spells. So I guess if you can see a lot of 7 and 6 card hands and play 2 relevant things, explosively firing those off and not mulliganing to Oblivion, losing to a forest, losing to a wasteland or whatever, I think this deck is awesome. This deck is awesome. And then the Cinderella story here, Knight of the Reliquary. Who would have thunk it? In the year of 2025, we see 3 Naya Depths decks in the top 8s over 5 tournaments, and Nadu Winged Wisdom is nowhere to be seen. This card was deemed obsolete, unplayable, relegated to the past tense when Nadu kind of showed its ugly face. But now, who's laughing? It's this girl, Knight of the Reliquary, making top 8 X3, and I want to talk a little bit about why. This toolbox element of having Bajuka Bog available with your Claimer, with your Crop Rotation, with your Knight of the Reliquary, with your White of the Reliquary even, that just means this archetype or this kind of deck got a new shot into the arm thanks to the ongoing metagame. So let's imagine that all graveyard decks were not legal, or that was not an angle you had to worry about in Legacy. Then Knight of the Reliquary would probably be sitting on the bench. So this is why Magic is cool to me. It's what's the trends? How can I attack it? Can I bring back something from the past? Can I combine that with how I love to play Magic the most? And then you can make the most of it. So I hope this serves as inspiration to a lot of players. When there's new circumstances, it opens up new opportunities. So it should be this ongoing project where, oh, now I have this opportunity. Oh, now I have to shelve this opportunity and go back to this one. And this is why Magic, the wheels keep on turning, and that's why I love the game so much. So hopefully that's why you love the game as well. I'm here to inspire. I'm here to talk about the game, what I find exciting. You should find your own lane, of course. But I do get a lot of feedback that, oh yeah, what you said on this or that video really resonated with me. Now I enjoy the game even more. Messages like that are priceless to me. Really, really cool to hear about. Just me sitting here talking a little bit about Magic some hours every week, and then, impacting players on the other side of the world. That's very, very special, and I'll never take it for granted. All right, guys. I'm not gonna keep you any longer. I have to move on with my day. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you back soon on the channel. Bye, guys.